All right. Greetings and peace, everyone. Welcome to the Committed and Relationship and Spiritual Hold on. Welcome to the Committed Relationships and Spiritual Activity podcast / YouTube channel. And yes, this is also a podcast. So if you want this episode, depending on if I decide to have it or not, the minimum of my podcast that I put up, I usually go by if it's 20 minutes or longer. So if this ends up being around 20 minutes, I usually will post it up. Or if I feel like it's a very vital information that people should download and would want to download, then I'll put it up on my podcast. So regardless, whenever you can, at the end of this video, go ahead and check out the podcast section of my channel. The new information is there. And for whatever information that I can't and or don't want to share here on YouTube, it will be on my website. So remember that. And for example, if you ever see a video that was there, that wasn't there, then maybe it's on my website somewhere. And if it's not, if it's something, piece of information that you want that wasn't available or anything like that, just send me an email. Anyways, my name is Neo, and I am here to share some info with the people. I am your host for the show. And now this one right here is definitely my intention to make it about teen dating. The one that I just previously recorded, that somehow, some way ended up being somewhere totally different to where I wanted it to be. But however, that's how the spirit leads. It leads and lets us know what we need to share rather than what we want to share sometimes. And what I shared last time was about what causes the delay of people's maturity. And that starts with the society, and then it leads down to the parents, because it is the parents' societal beliefs that they have within their psychological system, aka their mind, that causes the child to have a delayed maturity process, if a process at all, because there's some people who don't even go through a personal development process that is necessary to help them reach an adequate level of maturity, psychological maturity, because nowadays it is artificial maturity. So go check out the book Artificial Maturity. That is one book that I recommend that everybody read, including teenagers, read, and it will help you think on a entirely different level, hopefully, and provide you new information that you have not received before. So now let's go ahead and talk about the reasons why I discourage teen dating. Let's talk about the psychological and brain of the teenager. Now, all the way up to I say like early 20s on an average person, their brain is still in the development stages. I knew this early on during my teenage years and all the way up until my 20s, because I got the spiritual transmission that came through and told me that I need to stay with my mother until my brain fully matures, so that I can be on a better maturity level before I actually move out on my own. And that is one thing that my older sisters failed to do. And I don't blame them for that. That's just the environment that we were living in with our mother, our immature mother at that. And she was lost, and she didn't have strong guidance in her life when she was a child. She ended up getting involved with teen dating, ended up being married, got a divorce, and had 4 children throughout the whole marriage. 4 children, and then ended up being a single mother. That is what occurs a lot. A lot of people have been influenced to get involved with teen dating. Now, the teenage years, those are the years for personal development. That's prime. Your brain is prime. The child's brain is prime for development to evolve to higher levels. that's supposed to be on an adult level. A child is supposed to be able to think like an adult by the age of 14 at least, if not between 14 and 16, to where you can literally have an adult conversation with the individual, and they're wise, they're self-reliant, they're not always whining about, oh mommy, what about this, what about that, oh I need my mommy to come here with me and do this with me. And then there's some people who have not been through any kind of personal development process, to where they're still 25, whether it be male or female or even older, still living with their mother, still depending on the mother, and they still haven't developed the self-reliant mindset. And now with the development still in process, anything that can provide any kind of psychological trauma to the child is highly destructive during that time, or even before, especially before. That is highly destructive. That's why I feel like teenagers should not have to do a lot, should not have to receive much pressure from their parents, unless it's going to be some type of pressure that's actually going to help them evolve rather than devolve and delay their maturity process. Like, for example, pressuring a child to always focus on their schoolwork. That's what I'm giving an example. Yeah, let me tell you this. Yes, it is good for the parent to apply a little bit of pressure to get the child to focus on their schoolwork. However, the child's brain also needs relaxation time for the brain to be able to process all of the information that they have learned. So it is good to allow the child to play. They have to play. Children have to play in general, and that's one of the things that I really, really love about children. I have 9 nieces and nephews, and I have spent a great amount of time with all of them, so I do know what I'm talking about regarding children. I had ample amount of time to study my own family, my own nieces and nephews, all the way from, let me see, we're what year? I think it was like 99, I think she was born, like 99, 2000. Something like that, or maybe before. No, actually it was like 96, 97. My oldest one was born, something like that. Anyways, all the way from there, all the way till now, I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I literally spend time analyzing them and children in general, and I spent a lot of years studying and examining relationships. So this information comes from my examination of all of those things. And self-education is needed first and foremost before going to school and being obsessed with going to school and reading books. Reading books is one aspect of self-education. That's what I have to get that across to people. But what society wants people to believe is to believe that they have to get everything from the schools, which the school does not provide a full overall balanced education. It provides a lot of bullshit, but with very little necessities inside of the school system. And that's why I'm going to do another video talking about that too. So during the stages of the teenage years, you have the hormonal change. Also, the hormonal change is within the body, and there's different hormones moving all over the place, causing the child to start to desire sex, start to desire a certain gender. Nowadays, you have a lot of the teenagers, due to societal subliminal messages all over the place, and due to the foods that's changing the DNA within the child, is causing a lot of people nowadays to start to think and behave outside of their nature. Thinking and behaving outside of the nature, that puts a lot of stress on the child too. Also, and that's come from the foods, which is garbage, the lack of adequate level of water, and also sunlight. People have to pay attention to that also, and do your research on sunlight. Sunlight provides a lot of benefits, health benefits, and also psychological and spiritual benefits. And me going through my own experiences of getting adequate level of sunlight starting in the morning, a minimum of 1 or more hours. When I come back into the house, I'm like, I have so much energy, and energies in my brain, and I feel like I can do so many things. And I said to myself, now imagine if children was able to get this amount of sunlight before they go to school, they start a school day. They will be on a much higher consciousness level, and they can get through work easily, get through the school day easily. But on average, a lot of children, they eat late, and what they do eat late is a bunch of garbage, and they haven't been taught the importance of water and getting adequate level of water that cleanses your body and provides your body all of the necessary cleansing and also repairing and regeneration. It does that also. Water does so many things for our bodies, but the lack of water creates dehydration, and dehydration creates degeneration of the body. And that's why a lot of people, they get a lot of headaches because they haven't been drinking adequate a level of water. I say a minimum of half a gallon of water throughout your day. If you can get to that level at least, that's a major plus. But if you can go through a whole gallon of water, in particular distilled water throughout the day, then do it. But decide to drink adequate amount of water throughout the day, in particular when you have access to the bathroom, because you're going to be doing a lot of urinating. But that's good because that's cleansing your body out and keeping it healthy. And there's some people that need a lot more fasting also, avoiding eating or at least decreasing the eating and increasing the water, the sunlight, and at least decent amount of exercise, even if it's just walking around the block for an hour, half an hour, walking around at the park for half an hour, anywhere where you can get your blood circulating throughout your body and increasing your heart rate so that it can exercise itself and circulate throughout the body. Because there's a lot of teenagers who are just sitting on their asses all day, every day. Number one, you get sitting on the asses a lot at school, and then by the time they get home, they're just sitting there watching TV, or worse, on their cell phone all day, every day, or playing those video games. That does not help either. So that wastes even more time and prevents the child's personal development process. Again, you got to remember that a child has to go through a personal development process in order to evolve. So that they can be on a much higher psychological maturity level where they're supposed to be, so that by the time they are out of high school, they're supposed to be thinking like an adult, and especially by the time they're in and out of college. But me going through my own experiences of being around college students, I realized that there's still a lot of college students who are still on the high school level psychologically, and sometimes even further back. That is ridiculous. And this is people who come from families who are wealthy, all the way down to the ones that's not really as wealthy. I mean, even to the poor ones. So it's not class, it's not race. It's really boils down to the psychological refinement level of the parents or whoever they grew up with. The lack of personal development process that they didn't go through to help them raise them up. So then you have, with that lack of personal development process to help the child to be able to think on their own, you have a lot of people who lack the communication skills to be able to know how to speak with other people. So when teenagers are in relationships with each other, they often miscommunicate, with each other, and that miscommunication caused a lot of dysfunction throughout the relationships, and that is ridiculous. And then there's a lot of most teenagers aren't aware of their egos and their emotions. The ego is highly sensitive to whenever it doesn't get their way. When it doesn't get its way, it causes the person to behave in a destructive way many times, especially if they did not have any parental guidance teaching them what's what and how to respond to certain situations. So whenever a teenager doesn't get their way, many of us know how they react. They act like children, especially if the parent did not get them out of that childlike mind. The childlike mind needs to be eradicated by time the child graduates. Really, I feel like graduates, if the child wants to go right into the workplace right after high school. But regardless, the earlier a child can start thinking like an adult, the better. That's what I'll say. The earlier, the better. But the delay in it's not beneficial for the child at all. It's definitely not beneficial for the child at all. So with these teenagers not really knowing what their ego is, what their emotions are, and how to respond to them and how to deal with them, that causes a lot of dysfunction and just things to go haywire within their relationships, because parents have not even taught their children how to have relationships and behave within relationships. And there's parents that don't even know how to do it themselves because they didn't do it right the first time and they didn't put themselves through a personal development process. So it's like, why the heck does a child think that they are ready for a relationship? Well, you have the society itself literally subliminally encouraging teen dating. How often do you see teen dating movies, videos, TV shows, magazines, music? You hear the little teenager on the song saying, "Oh girl, I love you," and the other one, "Oh boy, I want to be in love with you," and go to La La Land, and you know what I mean? All of that crap is programming young people to be obsessed with being in a romantic relationship during their development stage and prematurely. And every individual that I have studied and examined and cross-examined and really asked questions and really looked at their life from the time that they were born, in whichever way I got the information from the time they were born all the way up until now, including people who I have seen their teenage years all the way up until their 20s and 30s, and who, especially if they have children, the majority of them that failed to go through a personal development process to evolve their minds are still psychological children. Many of them are still living with their parents, either one of them. They're still living with somebody else other than themselves. The self-reliancy is not there. They depend on unearned income. Unearned income is from the government in one way or another. They don't have any other source of income to where they're self-reliant, to where they're adding value to society. You have to at least have something to add to society if you don't have your own job. You have to have some sort of value that you're bringing to society. Other than that, you're just a useless eater. And that's what society wants. World societies want individuals to be useless eaters so that these useless eaters can be easily manipulated and then eventually cut off from the earth, because they're not doing anything to add to the earth and society. So the way that world societies, the influencers, look at useless eaters who are just sitting around doing nothing, eating, watching TV, and they're not doing anything to add to society, to better it in one way or another, and to evolve themselves. They look at them as just lames, a bunch of lames. So people have to actually get up off their asses and get their mind right. And during the teenage stage, that's where the process is supposed to start and continue. Well, actually before that, but at least get started within the teenage days. And also everyone that I studied who had children during their teenage days, the majority of them have put so much effort into their child that they fail to put effort in their own personal development. So having that child during the teenage years, it really messes people up, and it delays their process, like delays it tremendously. And it is really it's really sad to see, because certain people that I look at and I speak to, they're supposed to be on a certain adequate level psychologically to be able to do certain things that they still haven't been able to do. So that's one of the major reasons why I provide personal development consultation and also personal development subliminal videos to help people get started on their personal development process now, on their journey right now, because people have been waiting way too long, and their current beliefs that they have within their mind has not been beneficial for them at all, and they don't really realize what's going on. So for me, when people come and speak with me, they get a chance to really identify what they need within inside of themselves changed, and also solutions. Because I'm an individual who focuses on being solution oriented. Way too many people of this world have been experiencing people who just are problem staters. And problem staters are all around YouTube, and they give these lectures where they come to these schools and these different environments, and they just sit there. Oh, the government is doing this, the government is doing that, and this is in this video, in this movie, in the movies, in the music. It's like, okay, man, people need solutions. Give them solutions, because there's a lot of people who still have not been able to think for themselves, and they're not self-sufficient, so they want and need that guidance until they are able to raise themselves up. So my goal is to actually get people to an adequate, mature level so that they can start thinking for themselves, and they no longer need me or anybody else. They can just literally think for themselves. And that's what I've been doing throughout my life. Now that I'm at an adequate level, I can think for myself, and that's what I've been doing throughout my years. So especially after I realized that neither of my parents are adequate psychological adults, so I avoid asking them for life advice. And same with my sisters. So I got to a point, this was like when I was in my teenage years, so I was like, you know what, I'm not going to ask nobody else for life advice, because my family is just a dysfunctional family, and there's no need for me to cry or whine about it. Just get to work. And now I'm like, wow, I see the major difference of doing the personal development work versus not doing it. It's a huge difference. Now I can go through life and just literally do whatever I want, because I know how to manage my ego, I know how to manage my emotions, and I know how to keep myself balanced and keep myself in good healthy state, so that I can do whatever I want and need to do whatever I want. And that's another thing that people fail to do, is fail to understand how their body works and how to keep it in health, good health. And it was one person that didn't even know what good health is. So I'm like, wow, see, that's another parental responsibility. Teach your children how to keep their bodies in good health. I had to learn that after I moved out of my mother's house, and it was like years later, really studying my own body and listening to it, because your body speaks to you in various ways. It really does. So studying my own body, so that's why I'm able to remain looking young, and I look younger than a lot of young people. So I'm telling you, it's that sunlight, adequate level of sunlight, adequate level of water consumption, decent amount of exercise with a minimum amount of 30 minutes of walking, at least walking a day. Preferably a day, but at least 3 days a week, minimum. That's my recommendation of staying in good health, and decrease your junk food and decrease your junk things that you watch on TV, YouTube, and anywhere else, because it's also your psychological health that is messing up your own body. So you have to increase the intellectual, higher consciousness type of things that's going to help you evolve psychologically. You have to make sure that you do that first and foremost, and also start watching some things about health that's on YouTube, so that you can be in a much better healthy state. And then that would also help you think better in school as a teenager, and also in whatever else you are, whoever's listening to this, whatever age you are. So that's that, and I'm going to leave that as that for right now. And I'm going to get to see what the response is for that. Then maybe I'll do a longer lecture breaking down all of the ins and outs of teen dating and why it's best to avoid it, and anything like that. So if you guys are interested in any questions, comments, and concerns, you can email me at committedrelationships@gmail.com. That will be in the description, as everything else will be in the description that you can copy and paste. Or for the links, you can just click it and then it'll open up a new tab, especially considering my podcast, my personal development consultations, and anything else that I provide to the people of society. And yeah, so I'm gonna leave it at that. And also, if you have any questions that you would like for me to answer on a video that might be able to help other people, you can go ahead and send me your questions to my email and go ahead and get that started. And it's best to send questions. If you have questions, if you don't want them to be shown in the comment section, then make sure that you always send me an email, because sending me a message on YouTube, that's I don't like those messages on YouTube for some reason. I feel like it's better to just send me an email. Alright, so that's that. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. When you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell so that you'll get email notifications whenever I upload anything.